Today I want to talk with you about the fear of inadequacy that a lot of us have in our lives. And I want to share with you 3 strategies and tips that I'm using in my own life to help me combat and work through some of these issues. And I really hope that you can take some of these away, have a crack at them in your own life, and that they can be super valuable to you also. You know, the phrase, the feeling of inadequacy, it gets thrown around a whole lot. So before we look at ways to deal with it, let's make sure we're both on the same page and look at a quick definition that I found on Google. So I did a quick Google search and the Collins Dictionary says this: if someone has feelings of inadequacy, they feel that they do not have the quantities and abilities necessary to do something or to cope with life in general. The Berkeley Wellbeing says this: inadequacy is defined as the condition of not being enough or not good enough. Feelings of inadequacy are when we feel we're not good enough. These feelings generally have nothing to do with our actual performance or abilities in life. In fact, these feelings may have a lot more to do with low self-esteem or low self-confidence than any objective measure or ability or competence. So there's a lot of big words in those definitions, but from what I take out of it, essentially, it's the feeling of not being good enough for a particular task or role in our life. So what does that fear of inadequacy actually look like in my own life around becoming a dad? You know, it's things like, in my head, I don't think I have enough money to properly support my child through the rest of its life. I feel like I don't have all the skills and knowledge I need to do a great job of supporting Denny through pregnancy. I look at my own life and I see all the things that I haven't got in order, and I go, well, how can I possibly raise a child and get them on the right path if I can't do this? And even as I'm speaking to you right now, I realize that these are completely irrational and unfounded thoughts, but that's exactly what this is. And that's why I really believe these 3 tips that I'm going to share you can really help us take us out of our irrational mind and actually understand that we are enough. We just need reminding of that time and time again. So let's get into these tips. Here's tip number 1. So tip number 1 is using writing to get out of our own head. So if you're anything like me, you've got all these thoughts constantly running through your head. And these are good thoughts, but there's a lot of bad thoughts in there as well. A lot of self-judging, criticalness, these kind of thoughts around inadequacy, I'm not good enough, you know, this sort of stuff. And we all need a way to be able to get all of this out of our head, put it out somewhere so we can see it for what it is and slow everything down. And for me, practically, I came across morning pages. I'd tried so many other systems and failed at them in the past, but this one really seems to work for me, so that's why I want to share it with you. So you don't need anything fancy. All you need is a blank book. Can be any size, can be way smaller than this, way bigger than this, doesn't matter. You can even do this on your computer, but there's a lot of value I find in using a pen, which we can talk about later. But I'll tell you now, this has been the most important practice that I've placed in my life in the last 6 months or so. You know, I used to get so caught up in my thoughts, and all day I would sometimes just not be able to think because it's just this absolute cloud of just noise in my head. And I really needed a way to take that out, put it down, and leave it. And so I started doing this, and what it practically looks like for me is that I get up in the morning, I make myself a coffee, sometimes I make breakfast, and I'll sit there, and my goal is to do 3 pages, and that's it. And so 3 pages, it looks like a lot, and it is a fair bit of writing, but you're not trying to write a novel, you're not trying to write a blog post, you're not meant to be critical of your writing at all, because it's just getting what's in your brain and getting it out. It sounds super simple, it doesn't sound effective, but man, it is life-changing. Because I've found that the more that I can get out of my head and put down here, the clearer I can then start to think and actually start to process some of these things in actuality. And when we bring it back to this fear of inadequacy, I've noticed that a lot of times as soon as I've got it out of my own head and put it down on paper and being able to read it, I go, hang on, well, that's not true. Well, that's not really reality, is it? I really encourage you, just give it a try. Ideally, you can get to 3 pages, and it's a good discipline is to go, I'm just going to write 3 pages. It creates a discipline in your life as well. If you can do 3 pages every single day, it's a discipline in your life. And so that extends to other areas of your life. And we'll talk about discipline in another video as well. But give it a crack. You don't need anything fancy. Just get a crappy old exercise book, get a piece of paper, If writing isn't your thing, you can use a computer, but there is something kind of magical about being able to just connect through into the paper. In not a Harry Potter kind of way, but in just a practical, physiological kind of way. You can tell I'm not an expert on this, I don't claim to be, but give it a crack. Morning pages, look at the description if you want to find out more about it. And I'm going to make another video because I can't stop telling people about how effective this has been in my own life. Alrighty. Tip number 2 is be open about how you're feeling with those that you love and trust. You know, this is something that I really struggle with and I'm still learning how to do it, but I find it's really, really valuable to be able to open up and talk with Denny about these thoughts and feelings that I'm struggling with. It is similar to tip number 1, which was the writing and the journaling, but there's a lot of value that comes with actually talking these things through with those that are part of your life. Because not only can you get them out of your head, but they can come back with the positive side of it and actually reassure you that no, you are good enough, you are enough, you have what it takes to become a great dad, you have what it takes to become a great mum, you have what it takes to become a great CEO or whatever you're trying to do in your life. Yes, we all need to keep working and to become better and better and better at that, but they can be the voice of reason in our life. They can be the voice of positivity in our life when it comes to this. That is not to be underestimated how important that is. And so it's a simple one. And so I encourage you, start small. You know, maybe it is just sitting down with your partner or a friend or whoever it is, a trusted colleague or a parent, and actually just saying, hey, maybe this is totally irrational, but this is how I'm feeling right now. So I want to encourage you, and it's hard, but be vulnerable in this space. Sit down with your mates, sit down with your partner, sit down with a parent, sit down with a co-worker, whoever you can trust, to be able to really talk about these things, because so often it's by chatting through and talking through these topics that in that moment of conversation we realize, wow, you know what? I've built this up and up and up and up in my head so much, and none of it's true. None of it's true. So have those conversations. Start small if it's really scary. You know, actually arrange a time and say, hey, there's something I really want to chat with you. Maybe this is irrational and silly, but this is what I'm feeling. And I reckon you'll be surprised on how powerful and valuable those conversations will be. Tip number 3 is educating, reading and watching resources to help us grow our knowledge and confidence. So I don't know about you, but I'm somebody who loves learning. I love educating myself. I love going deep into a topic. And I find that especially coming back to this journey of becoming a dad, this is something that's really helping grow my confidence and help me feel like I am prepared to become a dad. You know, there's a whole bunch of books that get thrown at you, and you know, I want to share some of the ones that I'm reading right now, which are really helpful. There's a book, this is on my Kindle, but I'll put a proper graphic up of it on the screen right now. So You're Going to Be a Dad, and it's written by Peter Downey. And this is a pretty old book. Like, it's, when I say old, it's not as old as the Bible, but it's 20-ish years old. I think it's 25 years old or something like that, written by an Australian guy. Written by a guy who became a dad, and he just shares all the things he's learned, and it covers everything, and I mean everything. Things that as a guy I never could have possibly imagined that my partner will have to go through. And it's just unbelievable that we all came from a woman who had to go through all of that crazy stuff. So it's given me a whole new respect for what women have to go through in childbirth. But it's been incredible because I've learned so much. Even though a lot of it's still head knowledge, like a lot of it I probably won't even use in my actual practical life, I get a lot of value and I just get confidence from reading. And there's a whole bunch of YouTube videos which are great. Like there's one called Dadverb, which I'm really appreciating, and it's a fellow in America, and he is teaching about everyday things about being a dad, even from different products that we need and use and reviews and things like that, but then also sharing stories. And that sort of stuff I find really, really helpful. And I guess if you're watching this is a kind of a version of that as well. And it's not to be underestimated either, is how important it is to educate ourselves and not just get stuck in our own heads, but actually fill our head with knowledge and fill our head with wisdom and stories to give us confidence to be able to go forward. And this doesn't just apply to becoming a dad, obviously. We all know that this applies to every other aspect of our life. You know, if you want to become a great teacher or if you want to become a great artist, the more and more that you can fill your head with the knowledge and stories and things like that, a lot of times it gives you the confidence and the courage and even the inspiration to then go forward and create yourself. So that's it for this video, guys. I really hope you've got something out of this. Take away those skills, use them in your life, and understand that you can do this. Whatever that challenge is that you're facing, whether it is becoming a new dad, maybe it's becoming a new mum, maybe it's you're having a career change or a new relationship change. Take some of these strategies and use them in your own life to understand and remind you that you are enough just as you are. We can always get better at what we need to get better at, but you're enough and you have the skills to get on with that job. So go for it, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.